Folks, I know it feels like Resi Club has been around for years because Lance Lambert has been a huge part of the One Rental at a Time family. But did you know that Resi Club is today 3 months old? Lance, it's been amazing to see what you've done. It feels like an institution that's been around for years already, and it's only been 90 days, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And Michael, I really appreciate the introductions that you made for me. And then also just getting Resi Club's work out there. Because I think our work speaks for what we're trying to do.
Agreed.
And what I really wanted to build is kind of like a data-driven gateway to the heart of the US housing market. And so looking at it from different lenses, but also it doesn't matter if you're, whether you're on the institutional side, you're a builder, single family landlord, you're an agent, loan officer. I really want to help you to see the housing market, and then also in a nuanced way to kind of like see how it varies across the country, maybe how it varies by price point, all these different things. And so you can kind of get a little beyond the noise of the headlines.
Mhm.
And there is a tremendous amount of noise when it comes to housing. Because
Well, yeah,
nobody
go ahead.
writes about the stock market, like the way the housing market is written about. They would never do that for the stock market, and these other areas. But housing, yeah, it's very odd how it's been covered for a very
Well,
long time.
I think there's a couple of things that I want to jump into first, and we'll get back to the purpose of Resi Club. So I think that's really feeling what the heart of Resi Club is amazing. But I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that you went from a cushy job with a dedicated paycheck, working for a top tier magazine, Fortune, to an entrepreneur. And I want to ask you about that, right? You jumped, you made the leap. You were kind of a solopreneur for a little while. You're now adding resources to kind of broaden it out, which is awesome. But how is it being your own boss for the first 90 days? Is it scary? Is it crazy good? What's going on?
Yeah, so at Fortune, I was about 8, 9, 10 years into my career when I got to Fortune. And there, I really shined in ways that I hadn't at other places. At one point, while I was making 1/1000th of the content, I was 20% of traffic for a period of time.
Yeah.
And was the number one driver of premium subscriptions, number one driver page views. I built a business for them called Fortune Education, which is a lead gen vertical. And, if I had asked to do things there, I got a lot of yeses, and I had a great job with a ton of creative freedom. And nope, I never asked, like, could I do this story? I just did it.
Hmm.
And if I wanted to hire some people, I usually got the approval, and I was really liked at Fortune. Uh, but I really wanted a challenge. And I really, I kind of wanted to be the man, if that
Hmm.
if that makes sense in a way.
It does.
I've seen a lot of people in my career who had been successful in media organizations and kind of gotten to that point I'd gotten to at Fortune. And I've also seen things go bad for them because at the end of the day, you work for the company.
Right.
It's not really a family thing. It's, what are you doing? What is your value there that you're creating? And these organizations, there's a lot of political side to it. And so while things are good now, if a different editor in chief came in 2 years
Hmm.
and he brought in a whole different crew and it all changed, things could change very quickly. And
Yeah.
so I kind of wanted to build my own thing and do it my way, which my way is I'm very reader friendly. I like to
Hmm.
interact with readers. I respond to almost anything people send to me. I love to hear their feedback. And I also like when they, punch a little hard sometimes. Not necessarily me personally, but at the content or like if I did something wrong or didn't look at it the right way. And I listen to those things, and I've always been reader friendly. And I think that's what Resi Club is we're trying to be like a close partner where we're sending out stories to you directly into your inbox.
Yeah.
If there's suggestions that readers have of things for us to look into, we will, at least consider it. And we also want to like get really good data, but then constantly try to get better. Like, how
Hmm.
can we gather more information to provide an insight that doesn't exist yet?
Yeah.
And I want to do that the same way that I did it through my career in media, which is I did a lot of surveys at Bloomberg. I used to do their MBA rankings, and at Fortune, I did a lot of that. And then the analysis, I'd go to companies and I
Mhm.
get very close with them, and I try to get a lot of proprietary data out. And the reason for that is for them, it helps them because their data, it's almost like marketing for themselves, right?
Right.
But sometimes if you shake a tree that isn't used to like giving up their great data and can show, hey, this is good, people like it, you can get more and more good stuff out of them. So an example of that right now is like, well, one, I used to work at realtor.com, so I use theirs constantly. And Zillow's, I use theirs, but Parcel Lab has been a great one where they've been giving
Mhm.
me stuff, and I'm able to show a different area of the housing market in a way that people haven't seen it before. So I kind of veered off from your initial question, but where I am right now is a lot of energy, really excited, and I'm doing something that I'm very passionate about. But it's nonstop. It's
Mhm.
every day, constantly. You know what it is. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
did the day job and built the thing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like taking the day job to build the thing, a little bit of a different path, but still, it's
Yeah.
that same thing. The only way you get through it is just a passion and a fire and knowing the direction you're trying to go.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You and I have had a relationship for almost 2 years now. First, obviously, just interacting with your content because you're right. You're housing, 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 right? So you've said that thousands of times, I'm sure. But it really resonated with me because yeah, there are other firms or media folks, like John Burns, who does an amazing job, but really builders, Zonda. Like there's a lot of folks, but honestly, I never felt like I had a horse in the race. I always had to peel a little bit from here and a little bit from there. And of course, I had to take everything with a grain of salt, right? Because they're talking about rent declines. And oh, by the way, most of that's multifamily and it's Class A and it's in the Sun Belt. And real estate is always hyper local. What I have loved about your stuff from the first time I caught it on Twitter, now X, is data dependent. And I love the fact that you don't give opinions and guesses, right? You're just like, no, this is the data as it exists today. I'll report the next one next month, and I love that. I love that about you. You're authentic, and you are who you are, which is it's just fun to watch. And
Yeah, and so
frankly,
the
you're this
reason it,
you're the same today as you were as a bigwig at Fortune, and I think
well,
that's awesome.
I, I appreciate that. And yeah, one of the reasons that I don't try to make the bolder calls is for two reasons. One, I see myself as having more value if I bring together a wide variety of views and people can
Yes.
see how those views shift, right? Because if I make the calls and I share the calls,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
agree.
the same. And then the other thing is, to be honest, I don't exactly know how everything's going to.
Yeah.
And so if I make too many calls, I'm kind of taking a leap of faith at times, right? And it can affect the reporting. Now, I
I agree
do
with that.
do
Yes, I
things
agree.
where if it starts to look like things are shifting a little bit or something's changing, I try to say those things. Example of this right now is it looks like it not a ton, but it looks like the lock-in effect is eased up just a little, right? I don't try to make a huge deal about it. Like we
Mhm.
are still in a listing deficit, but I
Mhm.
want to be analytical and show people
Yeah,
here's the numbers, try to quantify it. And if it continues, I'll keep pushing it. If it fizzles out and we're right back into the low listings, I'll say that too.
right.
But I really have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is amazing, and I thought you were crazy when you told me this the first time, is you committed to 5 pieces of free content a week, plus 3 additional pieces, plus access to all of your data for premium subscribers. I could not imagine taking on, I mean, and you had that challenge since day one, right? That is what you were going to build Resi Club on, was free stuff. So amazing.
Yeah, and so the thinking there is, I want to have both a big audience, but then also still have a premium side too,
Of course.
and provide more access to the premium. But then still, I have some faithful readers who probably will never pay,
Yeah,
and that's fine. And most people don't subscribe to a lot of publications, and that's fine. But I still want to get good stuff for them too, and
yeah.
add value for them.
I want to be clear. I think Resi Club is probably my most cited source in my daily financial news. It's probably 2 to 3 times a week because the data and information is so important. And again, most of those come from the free stuff. I happen to have the premium version. I happen to have the extras. I happen to have data. But when I report on my daily financial news, your free information better than anything else I get across the internet. And I read stuff every day, 7 days a week. I've been doing it 20 years. The stuff that you give away for free at Resi Club, go to resiclubanalytics.com. Free, free, free. Second to none. Second.
And I appreciate that. And one of the fun things about writing so much content is not every piece can be a big picture take on the housing market.
Yeah.
So what I'm able to do is, because I do so much content, I'm able to take very small cuts at itty bitty parts of the housing market. So like over the weekend, it was like, let's look at this multifamily supply and put it in a historical context of the total units, but then also the percent. And there is a lot of multifamily supply on the apartment side, not single family, which is
Mm-hmm.
big
Big
thing people
difference.
wrong.
They get that wrong all the time.
But it also it's going to pull way back in 2025 and 2026.
Oh, of
So
course.
taking a look,
Yeah.
like then over the weekend was getting into the home insurance shock stuff for the
Oh,
credit
yeah. That's
writers.
real. If you're in a
Yes.
couple of big states, that's real. I mean, I'm working on my commercial quote, which is across 90% of my portfolio. I'm bracing for a 60% increase.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's across that's a big number.
I talked to a real estate insurance rep today, this morning, and what he told me is commercial will feel it faster and has felt it faster because there's less regulation. It's more
Yep.
of a free market.
Hmm.
The residential side is more political. So a lot of
Yeah,
these
of
in
course. Yeah.
every state and a lot of these commissioners in the insurance there are politically appointed or politically elected. And so
Ah.
they're delaying it. But at the end of the day, if you delay too much, you get what California gets. They're just like, you
Mhm.
know what? We have no
I'm
margins.
out.
We're
Yep.
out. So that's how the game on residential will be played. And it'll take longer to get in. But a lot of this right now that's coming in isn't necessarily because the risk profiles have changed so much.
No. Yeah,
It
agreed.
is inflation. It is still from the inflationary shock of the fact that labor has went up so much, the
Yep.
fact that replacement costs and all these materials is so high, and the home values have went up so much, and it's just delayed to get in. Has been a big part of this, and
No,
the
I
the
I
the
agree.
state agencies have slowed it down.
So again, Resi Club feels to me like it's been around for years. It's been 90 days. Um, can you share where you might see it going in the next year? Give the audience a tease where you might be taking this thing.
Yeah, so about to do get we want to get a really great researcher in is the next step. I think I have the visuals covered. I have a lot of like the data storytelling covered, getting the audience. I'm very reader friendly, so I'm always in like close to the audience. And I really want somebody with some good research chops because there are so many things that I don't have the answers for. If
Mhm.
somebody comes to me and they want like a nuanced down to the county or zip code analysis of property taxes and like what's going on, I'm blank. And I went
Yeah,
to Mark
so,
and Mark Zandi, the Moody's people,
yeah.
they have 100 economists and they buy data and all this data. They don't have it. So it's
Mm.
like there are things like that are unanswered questions and there aren't great data for. So if I get somebody with some really good research chops to kind of get into more of the survey game, to get into some of the other data collection stuff, and just going out and reaching out to places to see what other data is available, I think will add a lot of value to the Resi Club readers is
Yeah.
where my mind is right now.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is interesting is there's a lot of talk again. Maybe this is economy and more stocks, but I always turn it to housing. A lot of talks of revisiting the 1970s.
Mm.
And I just looked at my 53-year spreadsheet, which has a lot of stock and housing data in there. And it's really crazy to me to see that the stock market was up 10% for the decade,
Yeah.
1% a year, and housing more than doubled.
Yeah, yeah, housing, yeah, yeah. That's what I've seen when I have done the numbers on my side. It's like inflation's like 120 for the decade or
Yeah,
100.
yeah,
Stocks
over
is like
over
10.
100. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and then
crazy.
yeah, and then I think I had it at like 160 or something for housing or something like that. So yeah, like what you said.
Yeah, so
Just
it's
now,
really
I'm not going to say this is that because
no, no.
that was a very unique situation.
Yeah.
And one of the things that occurred there is they put in into effect in the early 70s. They put in price controls.
Oh
When you
yeah, for
do
sure.
price controls, it creates a downward pressure on supply.
Correct.
So they just shot themselves in the foot so many times. And you really don't want to fight economics like that. And so that was interesting. And hopefully this is more like a post World War II where there was a
Yes.
huge boom, a lot of excess in the economy, and kind of coming off that wartime and a lot of stimulus, and then it kind of fizzled out. And I think that would be what's best probably for the country is
No, for
a little
sure.
bit a little bit of boring.
Yeah,
But it's
I don't mind flat for a couple of years. Let's
but
have a
it
little boring. Yeah.
but one of the things about real estate is as long as you run it right and don't get silly, you're protected for both
Yeah, of
scenarios,
course. Yeah.
boring or you know
Yeah,
whatever.
ripping. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, it runs.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
do think what we've seen, the fact that mortgage rates went up from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
and home prices are essentially at or slightly above the 2022 peak. I think that what that tells you is that if rates didn't move up faster in 2022, the overheating wasn't done.
No,
Like
I agree with that.
there's still
Yes,
more
on
there.
it was on a boil. Yes.
And if you go back and remember in 2021 into 2022, people kept being like, thinking like, is it about to stop? Is it about to stop? There was more runway there. Even if
Agreed.
rates went up to 4 or 5, there was some more runway there, which was, I think that's an interesting point to remember because in the Fed's other rate hike cycles in the 70s, and I'm not saying this is that because I don't want to
Yeah.
say that, but if you go and look at the chart, as soon as the Fed pulled back, that inflationary shock went back. It wasn't
Amen.
done.
No,
It wasn't
exactly.
done. It was still there. Now, I'm not saying that this is that, but I'm saying on the housing front, you get a little bit of that feel just because, prices haven't given up much of anything.
No, and you highlighted earlier, right? Rates have come in a little bit and we're seeing a little bit more activity. It brought back some supply potentially, right? New listings. So we'll see about the lock-in going forward. I think 2024 is going to be a rate story, rate and inventory story. And of course, I always talk about below and above the median, first time versus luxury. It's definitely know your market, know your buy box. And if you want data, Resi Club Analytics has it for you. Any closing thoughts, Lance?
Yeah, I think in terms of things to root for a healthy market, rates going up a lot more from here doesn't really make us a healthier market. Rates
No.
going down a lot more from here doesn't make us a healthier market. The number one thing I think is just that the builders can continue to make sales and don't do a big pullback in permits and things going forward. I think
Yeah, I
is
agree.
probably the thing that's been the healthiest. And that's been one thing that has been a bright spot of the rate shock is that builders have been able to continue to maintain sales now
Yeah,
despite rates going up so much because their affordability adjustments, meaning mortgage rate buydowns.
yeah. It's
Which
really funny.
I do think that's one other thing to point out.
Sure,
And sorry if I'm making it too long-winded,
it's
is
okay.
that Logan Motoshami pointed out this week that in terms of where rates have to go to like get things moving again, the builders are already telling us
Yeah, that's true.
5.5, 6. That's what we see. We know it. They went out and found the
They
market.
found the market, yep.
That is where the market is. So the market is found. We know where the market is.
That's an
So
excellent
closing
point.
time.
That's
Yeah.
an Logan, great point. So five
Yeah.
and a
He didn't
half.
quite flesh it out, but I think that's what he was alluding to. We know where the market is. Builders went out and found it, and it's at 5.5, 6.
Yeah, well, I guess in the luxury market, it's probably five because we bought our luxury spot at 499 with a significant rate buy down, but yeah.
it might be 4.5. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a whole other, yeah, whole other thing. And thank you for letting me talk about Resi Club. But
Oh, yeah.
that's what I want to get to is the nuance of the housing market. Like, let's really have a good discussion of housing.
If you are interested in single family homes, which let's be real, if you're on one rental at a time, you are. You should support Resi Club, even if it's just the free version. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, go to resiclubanalytics.com. Give it your email so you too can start receiving 5 free emails. And if you want to geek out, you want to go deep on your buy box, get the premium version, get all the extras like I have. You won't be disappointed. Lance, thank you so much. Thank you for coming every Thursday.
This is great.
Mhm.